Welcome to the DevReady Podcast, where we're helping non-techs build better tech. Today, we interviewed Sanne. Sanne is the National Operations and Quality Manager at 6 Degrees Recruitment. 6 Degrees Recruitment is a mid-tier recruitment agency in Australia that's basically using data to change the way they do business. Data that is driving digital transformation, that is driving real business decisions within their organisation. We talked about all things data, but also looked at some of the things and smart things that they're doing internally that have enabled them to bring systems and solutions together that are delivering real business outcomes. Enjoy the podcast. So Sanne Dowell, thanks for joining us today. Sanne's from 6 Degrees Recruitment and she works in operations at 6 Degrees Recruitment, also a part of the innovation process there and their sort of digitization and transformation process. So Sanne's got experience at companies like Telstra, PepsiCo, Woolworths, just to name a few. And Sanne's actually from the Netherlands. So Sanne, thanks for joining us all the way in Australia.
Thanks for coming in.
She's been in Australia for about 6 years, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
That's correct. So just from 6 Degrees, tell us a little bit about what digital transformation means for you guys.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept, I think a big word for many different companies. For us, I think having me on the organization actually focused on technology and the systems operations is already a big step, especially for recruitment agencies.
Yes.
There's not often people who actually look after technology on its own. So I think that's a first relatively big step for us towards being more digital as a business. In my role, I've focused on a lot of the systems and system operations and kind of the relatively quick wins in that space, and work a lot on the data. So the data that we have, make sure it's good quality and that we actually can do something with that. That's now getting to a phase where it's actually being handed over to a data analyst that's now working with me, which is awesome.
Yeah, that's a good step, definitely.
Awesome step.
So
really excited about that.
Insights on recruit possible candidates or the types of jobs that are coming through?
Yeah,
or?
It's on candidates and also our internal operations. So we could see, for example, we're tracking how many resumes people on average send out before they actually make a placement, because it could indicate that some people might not be looking at the right type of people. So it's personal development a lot in that space, or the time we take to deliver a job in different industries, if there's differences, those kind of insights.
Okay, so it's not just connecting a person to an employer, it's personal development and offering them training to try and skill up.
Yeah,
as well.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, because our strategy for 2020, learning and development is a big piece of it as well. And the data can really help with that, especially just the technical skills that people have, how they do their job. So that's what we're focusing on there.
Looking at growing insights in that space from a data perspective, which is a smart move, but conscious of the fact that you need to be aware of data. There can be so much data and it's about what's important, right? So how do you go about finding what's important in that data stream of all that information that you have?
Yeah, that's a good one, because I think the biggest challenge is always complexity when it comes to technology. There's so much out there, so many ideas. Everyone comes up with new ideas how we could do things. It's all possible. The big challenge is actually breaking it down to what are we going to do first, what matters most. So I've done that, especially with the data. There's some standard, if you look at the recruitment industry, some standard metrics that really help, especially when it comes to performance. So those are the ones we really, for now, focusing on. They're pretty much
wins.
basics.
Exactly. The quick ones you can identify easily and get some insight from.
Exactly. Yeah, and the data that we have as well without too much pain and effort. So that's where we're starting.
So the scale of the business, so how many people do you have across the recruitment company? Because I know it's a bit of scale there.
We're for a recruitment business. I think we're pretty medium sized. So we got 85 people. And so you have office in Melbourne, Brisbane and Sydney as well.
From managing across those silos, how do they operate? Do they operate pretty much in their own little world, or do you share the data across all of them and distribute and have different learnings across offices, or is that a little bit beyond where we're talking now?
It's definitely within the scope, and especially the first year, because I've been here just over a year. The first year was really about just driving our system, the data that we have, and internally we call it the SDE way. So we're really trying to focus on some basic processes to make sure that across the states we do it the same way. So that was kind of pre the data analytics. So that's really part of what we set up. I made sure the system really is clear in indicating what information we need where, how we put the information in. For example, if you talk about salary, do we write it down including, super or excluding, or little things like that actually make a difference to get
just trying to standardize the structure.
Definitely.
So in terms of the types of technologies that you're working with, general recruitment software, obviously LinkedIn's a big part of your world, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what other technologies do you generally work with?
Yeah. We have, for me, it's still relatively complex infrastructure of systems that we use. We have a CRM system, so we keep a lot of information on our candidates and clients in there, which is linked to it's the same system ATS as well, so we can track jobs. And we have quite a few integrations in that. So we have systems that make sure that if we post a job, it actually goes across different channels.
Okay.
We integrated with LinkedIn for the most part.
Most part, yes. As much as you possibly can. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes,
and
there's some limitations there.
I
think you do, yeah.
What we've tried to get out of developers.
Because those partnership, it's always challenging, and most of the part it's also because it's out of your hands. So you're working with the CRM company and LinkedIn there, trying to figure it out. So we have quite a few of those.
Okay.
We're starting to integrate a bit more with Microsoft Office 365.
Okay.
I'm trying to put some automation in place there.
Will that potentially be a shift then to like dynamic CRM rather than the CRM you're using, or like Salesforce in the future?
We're not sure. I think that's a project that we do have on a roadmap, because we need to look into, because currently our CRM, it's more ATS. They tick the box of a CRM, but they don't have all the functionality, which we would love to have, especially looking towards being really customer centric, because we have a customer experience team. So being able to actually put personas on different people and really customize how we interact with people. We're going there, but the journey to get there and what we really need, that's probably longer term for us. For now, the focus is really simplifying, especially with having the data analyst. She's working really on the basics of the system now. Since I've kind of redone that, I can kind of slowly hand it over, because our focus is really on simplifying now the systems that we have to make it easier and have better integration, so that data is not duplicated. Well, it is duplicated, but in the right way, not just by filling in the same things in different areas.
And that's the first quick win, right? Is saving time on where you're filling in data. I think that's probably the good focus. Anyone out there that is double handling data, look at where you can get that quick wins, integrate with some things to flow data through. So that's some focus.
Repeating steps of copying and pasting a lot, then you don't have one true source.
Definitely.
It makes a headache, and then editing it in one spot doesn't correlate to the others, and you get lost. So,
I think it's one of the major frustrations.
A great way that you've gone around going through this procedure.
Correct. So we really focused in this initial year, we really focused on that, but more from a systems and integration. So if different APIs, obviously, which is the link between different systems, get information across. So I focused on kind of tweaking those to make sure that is all working. And now we're actually looking at a bigger project, really the whole infrastructure of restructuring that and simplifying that, and also enabling us to do more with the systems that we already have, because there's amazing potential.
And then
there.
From our chat we had a few months ago, we sort of found out about what you were after, what you were doing, and how you were going about it. And it was the infrastructure was all thin clients, Andrew.
Okay.
Across the 3 offices.
Okay. All right.
So they can't use things properly.
Get that.
They're very slow.
It would be very slow.
You explain the problems you have with it.
Because we have how we're set up. We're working with thin clients, which basically is built on the assumption that video doesn't really exist. So I think that's the first indication that there's a great opportunity to actually improve that, because we have great ways of working around it. But with that comes a lot of extra work, or actually going outside work environments to save videos. So we're looking at this whole project, and we're finalizing it now to get a final yes and a go ahead of restructuring that and actually fully moving to the cloud, more hybrid now. And that gives us great potential, especially when it comes to Office 365, Microsoft. Big fan of that. There's a lot of potential in systems that we want to use that are now kind of blocked, basically, because of the infrastructure that's underneath.
And that's there are obviously challenges within organizations about legacy systems that exist. Makes it hard to transition. There's big investments that have to happen just to move sometimes. So it's interesting to see where you're currently at.
Videos with recruitment probably doesn't fit, but it's probably people are asking for video resumes or things like that. And you're probably looking at social media, I'm guessing, as well, and seeing what they've got. And if you can't see things, you can't gauge their personality.
And we have an amazing marketing team at 6 Degrees. So they're doing really well, and actually having video content as well, and using social media really, really well. So it's just also for them making their job easier. So
and you can't see your own teams.
Exactly. Because we use Teams as well. So we're doing really well. And I think also, as you say, with legacy, there are so many companies and that have such big legacy systems that is really, really difficult to change. You have contracts, you have integrations. It's just not standalone. So it's a massive investment.
Do you sort of see that across the employers that you work with as well? That the legacy, there's like they're looking for very specialist people in old technology potentially, or things like that, very specific requirements.
I think there are many, many organizations, especially if they're smaller or medium-sized, where technology is just really, really complex, and it's really hard to really understand what you need and how you need to do it, because the default thing for people is to look what we have and let's get someone who can do that better. That's not always the best way to do it.
Not necessarily. What you've done in the past is not where you need to be moving forward. So
exactly.
Just touching upon that thinking, in terms of 6 degrees, what is the 3 to 5 year plan? What trajectory do you believe you need to be at? Where do you need to be in the next 3 to 5 years? What sort of changes do you see coming in recruitment that you're sort of gearing up to actually supply?
I think just generally the economy is going to be a bit more challenging. So with that, what we've identified as a really important key driver is focusing on customer experience. I know it's not just recruitment specific, but there's a real opportunity there, and especially because the recruitment industry doesn't have a great name, because sometimes you do get rejected and we can't get back to everyone. But because of that, there's actually a great opportunity to look at, what do people feel, and actually go beyond just giving them a job, but actually coaching them and helping them, because it's their livelihood for people. The job is really, really important. And there's different levels of importance depending on what stage you're at as well. If you're already out of a job, that's
more urgency around that.
So there's a lot of emotion there involved. So what we've recently set up, we call it a big day out. So we had a company day. So everyone flew in from all the different states into Melbourne. So it was a full day where we actually, with the business, worked on the business instead of in it. And we identified that customer experience, and especially certain scenarios where people were really challenging. So out of that came that we set up a customer experience tribe, we call it.
Nice.
So it's myself and our marketing manager, Joe Little, who's amazing. So the two of us are heading it up. Very big supporter is our CEO, Susie, which is awesome, because you really need to keep it going. Because this is going to be a massive project. So we're looking at, we're actually developing personas, we're developing customer journeys, which is the stage we're at now.
Nice.
It's massive, and setting up really the foundation of them moving forward, identifying where we're just missing out on expectations versus reality, and breaking it down into actions around marketing, but also our systems and operations of how we set up. So that, I think, come back to your point, that's kind of where we then link in to see if our CRM, if we need to change that or if it's sufficient.
Generally, a technology change comes from a strategic direction change. So there's no point changing technology just for the sake of doing it. So you really need underpinning strategic direction. As I always say, it's not about the technology, it's about the outcome you're trying to drive. And generally, people sort of get stuck within the technology selection. But just focus on the outcomes, and maybe you don't have to change anything, but maybe you have to overhaul what you're doing based on strategic direction.
Term digital transformation, they get stuck on the digital and just try and find something and then fit that in and then work around it, but it's not the right way.
No, and I see it everywhere. People I talk to, we're doing this. Okay, why?
Why,
we just need it to be more cloud-based. Not sure about that.
That's happened in the world of like apps, right?
Everyone
at the start of applications, that's good, there's some traction. We all need an app, And the realization became, okay, what are we really using these for? And I think that realization hits when you're getting no return from the app, or it's making no traction. Then you go back to the drawing board and say, okay, why did we do this in the first place? So, and that happens a lot within technology.
That probably helps undervalue what people expect apps should cost. I'd say as well.
I would say so too.
Definitely.
Especially the quick, like get a brochure site type website app out there, and that was what apps were at the start for businesses, and that's clearly a mistake businesses made, just to put a presence out there. So you can sometimes jump the gun without really looking into it.
It is, because technology really is an enabler. It's not a solution, but so many people think technology will solve things. It really doesn't.
No, it helps.
It helps.
Get you there, but
exactly.
You have to know what you want to
do. Exactly. So it's an enabler, and even that, still from change management perspective, educating people on that, it's challenging.
Challenging. What sort of challenges do you find in that? Is that challenges with the people across recruitment, or even high level?
A lot of people, and basically anyone who doesn't really work in technology, from my experience. There are a few exceptions, of course. But the complexity of technology. It's why I got into the space.
Yes.
I love it, but it's really hard to understand for people.
Yeah.
I did a professional Scrum course. I'm a professional Scrum Master, and they try to explain the level of complexity, which I love because the guy at the time gave an example of what people thought is really complex. It's like playing chess, where you actually need to think ahead and actually make strategic moves and know the game.
That's a good analogy, really.
It is, because at the time that was as complex as it gets, and these days technology can actually beat professional chess players, which is kind of a giveaway that this is the next level.
20-25 years since that even happened, so
exactly.
Progressed to the point where I think AI beats the most complicated game. It's called Go.
Okay,
it's a Korean one, which is like 10 times more complex than chess, and people can't compete with their AI at all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's really
it's leaps and bounds in the way it changes and moves.
Yeah, it is. And this guy said he compared it now to level of complexity is like playing with children. Because in the skip of beat, they'll change the rules, and suddenly you're not playing red anymore, you're green.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's what it is. Sometimes just little things come out of nowhere. You can't foresee it. You just need to deal with it.
Yeah, no, and that was another great analogy, because it does change every moment. So we can walk into our office and there's a new technology that's rolled out. There's a new framework that we need to be looking at, working with. If you're not on top of it, even when we're in this business, it's always changing. And we're delivering tech and technology solutions, not just at the end trying to figure out what to use. And that's another complexity. We don't understand it. So
and we can't just jump onto the bandwagon of every new thing, because then we don't become knowledgeable in anything.
Correct.
And it's hard to then provide efficiencies to customers or ourselves in doing everything new every day.
Exactly. And that's one of, because trying to explain things to people, even if you make it specific to one thing that you're developing out, you can't really, because it can just change any second, and that's really, really hard to get people on board then with what you're trying to do.
So how do you handle that change management within your business right now? So how are you handling pushing this message through around, all right, we're focusing in on this? How are you getting buy-in across the organisation? Are there people that just have no interest in this? What is it? What sort of challenges roadblocks do you hit?
I was lucky enough that relatively, I think in the first few months I had an opportunity to present to the executive leadership team. And that was really, really gave me an opportunity to show what I'm planning, how I see the role. So I took that opportunity to really explain Agile as a concept. I think that for me is the basics, that you're not really trying to explain everything, but it's giving people basic coping mechanisms.
Just the bite-sized chunks, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Have a rough guide, and then this is how we think we'll do it.
Exactly. So I try and explain the complexity, where it's coming from. So sometimes that if I won't be able to give you really specific timelines, or if things turn out a bit different, to keep an open mind, because it's still on track. Just sometimes in technology you deal with things that are unexpected. So that
all the time, but anyway, all the
time, yes.
You can't plan everything, as it's impossible.
Exactly.
There's always a little roadblock that comes up, or a little snag along the way. So just be aware of that. And I think you know that, right? So there's always you might have a perfect plan, but there's no such thing as a perfect plan anyway.
No.
It's all about just getting started and moving, and you'll find the roadblocks, but just having the awareness that they'll come up is probably the biggest thing you have to be aware of.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so that's what it is all, like showing that what I can do, like from my side, is really just breaking things down to smaller initiatives instead of planning a whole project. This is step to step what we're going towards, which help minimize the risk a bit. And
so you're working a lot more agile then, rather than 12, 24-month rollout plans. Good.
Correct. So working on that as well, and this is still constant, because it's really hard for people that if you see a change, if something happens and it's a bit different, if it doesn't stop you from being able to do your work, roll with it. Because sometimes if I have a bigger picture in plan, but I'm working on small steps towards it, the steps on its own might not make sense. But trust me, they will. It's just hang on, bear with me, because we're getting there. And that's still, and I think, everyone will have that challenge.
You're constantly having those conversations around little steps and people getting an understanding of what you're trying to achieve. It's little changes in the system that people are used to seeing things in a specific place or in a certain way. And when I then tweak it or slowly slightly relabel it, for example, some people still are like, oh, what's happening? Why is this? And that's difficult
because that's stopping, explaining, but there's a bigger picture, but for now, but why do it now then? And it's this continuous conversation that we have with different people around, the bigger picture and why sometimes I need to do things that on its own might not make sense yet. So that level of being flexible and patience and trust that someone's now looking after it, so it's going to be okay. That's ongoing, because change is scary.
No one likes it.
It's different. You want to know what's happening and why. It's very uncomfortable.
Is there a communication plan that you have to have constantly updated with the way you're working to keep people up to date with these little changes? Or is it the change just happens and then they see it?
Yeah, it might be a bit because I'm Dutch and stubborn. I'm like, guys, I explained it. You need to be agile, keep an open mind. Is it stopping you from doing your job? No, it's not. So roll with it. It's like an app on your phone that gets an update. Things have changed, but you can still do it or figure it out quite easily. So roll with it. Don't stop what you're doing and have a little panic attack. It's going to be okay. It's just a little upgrade.
Unless it's a bug or something, then just roll with it because it'll still work. If you label a button or change a color or something, it's not. All it's doing is breaking familiarity. For the user,
which some people don't know how to handle.
I remember when Instagram changed their logo 3-4 years ago. The whole world kicked up a stink about the logo changing colors. And didn't do anything.
And it's things like that. So I might be a bit stubborn in that way as well. I'm like, look, guys, just it doesn't matter. Keep going. And I kind of try to push the boundaries for people to keep sometimes just doing it, so they see it's not impacting them. If they do come to me, that's fine. I can explain it. But I have set up, we use like Team Hub. So I use that to actually have like within it a Yammer channel where I sometimes post things and updates of the systems and what might have changed. Because I do feel there still is a need for people to have a sense of control, that they can see if something changed, why that is. But sometimes it happens so often. It's trying to find a balance of what you communicate and what you don't. I still find it a challenge.
Do you get their feedback in helping determine what to change and what to move, or is that from a top level user decided that and just pushed it onto the users?
It depends, because there's two sides. So if it's a change that impacts how people do things, or really just a BAU for our recruitment consultants, that's always in collaboration with them. So for example, recently we were talking with the contractor team of if we would want to ask people to put hourly rates or daily rates, for example, in the system, then we actually get the contracting team together, and that manager then puts it out there to see what everyone wants, and that's what we base the decision on. Because you see it a lot that different people have different expectations and want different things, so you cannot please everyone.
That's impossible. You
need to get everyone together and agree on something. So those changes, always I collaborate with the business to make sure it's what they want. But there are other things as well in the back end that, for me, looking at technology and other systems, how other systems do it, sometimes just needs tweaking, because otherwise one system doesn't talk to the other, which is hard to explain for people.
You don't really need their input on
API
integration or how data is transformed to go to another system.
Exactly. So those kind of things, I'll take the decision on those.
Which will be like how most apps run. Only the things that you interact with normally get a lot of impact. Everything happening behind the scenes is optimization from developers and things like that, and it's just the way it has to be.
Exactly.
They don't have input on how it's written or how it works.
If we don't do it, then it doesn't quite work. And then people do complain it doesn't work. So those things,
Okay. So when you're in that collaboration mode, do you find that eases the communication channel and it makes it a little bit easier, or is it still having a little bit of challenges with the changes that are coming through?
Yeah, it definitely makes it easier to get people on board and have them make the decision for you, because sometimes that's totally fine. I just want to know what's best for them, what works best. So that really, really helps. There is still complexity sometimes with decisions where you cannot always 100% facilitate the outcome of that, because sometimes you're working with different systems and automations that you build in or integrations that for that to happen, you need to deactivate other bits, which make other things then not work, which then impact other things that they didn't think of. Those are the hardest ones, and that is a real challenge of, I understand what you want to do. For now, I can't make that work. I explain it. Sometimes people zoom out, which I totally understand. So those are still challenging because those things come up again and again.
When you're constantly changing things. That's something to be aware about if you're listening in. If you're changing one thing, it can impact other systems and other ways of working. So just own awareness behind that and what that impact could look like. And that's, if you're communicating it out, people might understand it or get it. And that's probably, it can be a bit of a challenge explaining those things. Yeah. The great examples that we sort of have when you're developing technology, it's just new updates that come out for example, apps. We had an update release that came out to iOS, I think 13 came out, and then things stopped working in an app. And no one was really aware of just on a specific version, I think it was. But there's sometimes some little awareness as to when things change, they can impact other things. So people just be conscious of the fact that technology is always changing, and you change one thing and something else can be impacted.
And the changes are out of your hands sometimes.
Sometimes,
like that iOS one.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And Apple just decided to change the way something works, and we have to just roll with it.
Deprecate functions, that's in below level, so they just delete things and then changes again. Yeah, okay.
It is. And that's where going back to those legacy systems as well. It's a massive one. If I would build it, I would have done it differently. But that obviously I'm at a different time as well, which makes it easier looking back.
Yeah.
But it's a massive change, and that will be for all companies that have been around for a bit longer. There will be systems that at the time made sense.
Yes.
It's just really hard now retrospectively, especially because I think a default for people is start adding things to fix things. So get another system too, because this is not working. Let's get another system that does do that. I see it everywhere. All the companies, all the people I speak to in different organizations, they always struggle with companies just adding on system to system to system to fix things.
Yes.
Well, sometimes the solution is actually just changing one system or redo it or actually look at what you already have.
Yep.
Because I think there's, many people underestimate the systems that they have and the functionality.
I'll touch upon that a little bit, because speaking to an organization, they're basically looking at how they can use Power BI within their business. And they're trying to educate people within the organization of what this can do. And there's no real understanding. So they're using it on a really tiny level to do basic stuff. And they've got so many systems. Once again, it's a good little application they can pull data from and just do some visual representation of what you're doing. So like you said there, not everyone gets the functionality, and that's hard because you've got to get that buy-in from all the stakeholders to say, okay, this is what we could be doing. So if you've really got a piece of technology, try and educate people on what it actually does, because we can change technology pretty much off the whim. Oh, this does this feature, let's move there. Not really sometimes the best decision just on a feature decision. Look at holistically what you're trying to achieve rather than just one feature.
And in that case with BI, they're trying to get the team to step away from Excel to manage everything. So having that ability to just change something if they want, they probably like that. When necessarily it's not needed.
Yes.
But it's the familiarity of knowing how to use it, and it's something new doing the same thing, but I don't know how.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's a big thing.
It's scary.
I think there's some proper Excel lovers out there. Excel can do anything. But I love you brought up Power BI, because I actually introduced that recently to our business as well.
Okay.
Because we have our CRM system, we have a special analytics tool within that.
Yes.
That tool is very limited. It can do a lot. I have to say it's actually not very limited, but the visuals is not great.
Okay.
So that's where I'm now introducing Power BI within our business to actually set up dashboards from the data that we pull out. And we do Teams to have the dashboard showing. So everyone has access to, we now have quality scores so people can see if they interview people, if they put in the right information in the system in the right way.
Okay.
So really use this kind of, again, feedback mechanism for people to check their own.
So it's ongoing training from the system as well. So it's QAing the data, basically.
Correct.
Yeah, smart.
And it works really well. And also for Power BI, it actually integrates, obviously, with finance systems, for example. So that's a great way for us to some gaps when it comes to information that's in our CRM, because not all financial detail is going to be in our CRM, and that should be fine. So instead of looking at tools to actually put that in or build custom stuff to put in financial information in our CRM, Power BI actually gives us an opportunity to do that on a different platform.
Bridges the gap of the multiple systems and gives you a new front end effectively.
Exactly.
So you keep your systems going without having to replace them and change processes.
Exactly. So instead of adding on different systems that fill that gap, Power BI actually just pulls everything together and integrates back into ways of working that we already have. So we use Yammer, for example, we use Teams.
Yes.
Power BI integrates directly with that. So then you prevent people saying, oh, yet another system.
Yes.
Because it's integrated. It's right there. It's a dashboard, just a different tab.
Yes.
So that has been working quite well for us so
good.
far.
Okay.
And I'm excited to do some more integrations with Power BI as well.
Yeah, so like you said there, an important thing is around the integrations. If you can find platforms and integrate with them, it's not as much of a change for users. We're just adding features. They don't have to learn a whole new platform.
Yeah,
and that's makes a big impact. So, and that's like you said, if you've got systems that are already working, you just need little bits. Don't go and try and find a whole new system to replace everything.
Yeah.
Maybe look at something like Power BI, just add more value to what you're doing.
Definitely. Yeah. And that's where our data analyst will now be working on as well, because she's becoming a specialist in Canvas, which is a Cognos-based analytical tool. She's doing that for the moment, and her development is towards Power BI as well, and actually really optimizing that system.
So in terms of the way you've gone about pulling this technology together, you're doing a bit of this in-house by the sound of it, clearly.
Yeah.
You engage with other providers. How do you go about the whole process from start to finish, or what you're working on?
Yeah. I try to really keep it simple.
Yes.
And optimize what we have. I think there's still tremendous opportunity for us to improve and get some real gains and automations and wins.
Yes.
So my focus really is on that. So be really clear with myself and the business. We're trying to be really clear of what we're trying to achieve and how we're going to get there, and then focus on what we have or finding ways to enable what we have. So that's where the IT infrastructure change suggestion comes from. It's allowing us to use what we have properly. So and I think that should always be the first to go to.
It's a good step. That's a first step for everyone. Yeah, if you're using technology, get the most out of it before you start looking elsewhere, right?
Yeah, because you'll be surprised how much is out there. And especially, I raised it a few times, Microsoft Office suite. Have a look. It's limiting, like it's so much that's out there. And it all talks to each other already.
3 or 4 programs anymore. It's a lot of stuff in there.
There's so many bits and pieces, and it pulls you back to the days of, like, if you look at some data and some stats when Word, for example, years ago, there were stats I read that were only people use 10% of the functionality within Word. And it can be seen across all technology. No one's using 100% of all features and functions. So utilizing as many of those as possible to streamline is a good starting point, I think.
Definitely.
And that was their change from that old menu
to the ribbon, which helped
the new menu
expose.
In 2013 now.
Yeah.
But now it's very easy to add styles or headers or references where there was 6, 7 layers down before.
That's the story. That was the reason why the change came in. The ribbon began to exist, so because no one was really using anything in Word other than maybe you got some fonts and some basic things, but no one was really engaging with the full technology gamut. So interface can be one of the biggest things that actually stops functionality being engaged with too.
And that's just Word.
That's just words.
There's a lot of people out there who don't really realize that you can build templates in there and can reuse it. And that's just Word.
That's just words, And think about the gamut of all the stuff that you use, right?
What everyone can do with Excel.
Yes.
Exactly.
Well, there's so many levels of Excel. There's people that can do extraordinary things in Excel, and other people
I've seen people who make artwork in Excel, so they do like pixel drawing with the cells. That's another level.
There's ridiculous things you can do, but no one really knows about it because they're just doing that everyday thing. Word, type a Word document. Excel puts the numbers in, do a plus minus calculation, and you're done. But
exactly.
Very, very good. So it's really good. Probably sum it up there, I think, in terms of where it's at. Unless you got any other questions.
There's more. Last when we chat was about the sort of how you're doing process automation, and instead of bringing in more systems, you're bringing in flow. Try and tie things together and trigger events and things like that. Tell us a bit more about that. Part of how you're doing it.
Definitely, because that was it's one of those little things that you find out and you're like, yes, brilliant. And it's just there and it's free. And so a great example was that I had our analytics tool, Canvas, that I was working with a lot. I needed to find a way to actually get that information visual so people find it attractive and it's easy to read. So that's where I found Power BI. To come in. I had a great mentor from Telstra who was amazing as well, helped me with that. And then it was about getting the information from Canvas, our analytics system, into Power BI. And you can do databases, export all the information from your whole CRM and then have Power BI do it. But actually found a relatively simple yet extensive process of emailing yourself the document with the data analytics in it, and then instruct Outlook to put it in a certain folder. And then I instruct with Microsoft Flow that it pulls this document out of the folder and actually puts it in a specific OneDrive folder, and then Power BI can be instructed to pull it out there.
Nice.
So it's a bit clumsy, but it's actually it works really, really well.
Very nice.
So that's little wins with things like Microsoft Flow that really makes a difference. Because that saves me from going to each individual report basically every day, running it, uploading it, saving it, refreshing it. That's now all done. So that's awesome. We use Teams and Planner as well in there. So there are great automations, even with Zapier. Another free tool.
Zapier is a great tool. There's so many integrations and automations that build off the back of that. So
exactly. So you literally just can keep working the way you work by just flagging my emails.
Little things in the background that just happen for you.
Exactly. And it automatically creates a little note for that one in Planner. So little things like that really, really, really help and saves people a lot of time. And I think the biggest plus from that as well is that people can keep working the way they work.
And to get those little wins, you're saving time, and you're also saving the headache jobs that people don't want to do. So no one wants to go export some data out of a platform and import it into another one every single day. Who wants to do that? Nobody. And simple tools like that can actually make a big impact, even morale around the office. So that sort of stuff for you is pivotal.
It's great. And also it's flexible, and having, I think flexibility and transparency are become really important words for me, especially when it comes to technology, because flow is a perfect example. You can always go back into the flows that you build, and you can see exactly how they work. So if something's not working, you can go back in and see exactly why, what happened,
which step
reports back and fails.
You can see all that information, which is a real plus from building custom automations, but which we have as well, where we ask companies, the company that we have our CRM with, for example, to build stuff for us. At the time, we didn't really think of having any transparency in if the email isn't being sent out.
Logging every step.
We don't have transparency in that. And that's still, that's really hard. And people are like, why is it not working? I'm like, I don't know. Figure it out. I'm like, I can't. Like, I'm happy to try again, but that's sometimes it takes 3 weeks for them to get back to us.
Even at that point, the developers probably couldn't even tell you.
No.
There's an error somewhere along the chain, and they haven't saved what's happened.
And it's fascinating because I totally understand it, but for people sometimes it's a problem. You need to solve it. So again, then you come back to that understanding of how things work, because I understand it, and we should, again, I feel like we should rebuild it and do it differently, so we have that flexibility ourselves and can change stuff. But
if anyone wants to look at the Zapier and Flow, and then if there's a simpler version called If This Then That, it's a very simple one to get your head around the whole concept of, if I do this, then something else will happen there. So you can. I'm using one I post to Instagram, and anytime that happens, it automatically goes to Twitter. So I don't have to do that myself.
That's
just a very low level of what you can do with Flow, and then Zapier has integration to all the CRMs and sales marketing tools.
Zapier's got integrations, anything and everything, basically. You might even have luxuries. LinkedIn, you've got LinkedIn pulling data. They plonk stuff on top of LinkedIn. So you've got extra buttons, and you can push them straight into a CRM. So there's all this sort of these integrations that they've developed across all these platforms. So great little tool.
They're just probably a bit overwhelming when you first look
at it.
There's a lot of figure out how it roughly works, and have a plan of what you want to do with it.
Exactly.
Just understanding the triggers is a headache at the start, I think.
And even what you say, just the if then this happens, if that then just try to explain that to people, because that's basically where everything's at the end of the day comes down to. That's the ones and zeros I figured out recently, which is fascinating.
It converts to that.
Now I understand it. Ones and zeros, I'm beginning like, that's just weird. Now I get it. It's all the same rules that if this happens, then that.
Basically a low level.
Basic
all
concept.
The code is regardless.
It's way more sophisticated because you can build in exceptions with all of that. But that's where it always comes down to. So if people can explain to me in those, only using those words, what they want me to do, I can build it.
Even all the algorithms we write, it's mostly control structure. So it's if, else, or a switch, which is another way of doing that. And then the only other thing we write different will be some transformation code, which changes something to something else or processes it. But then that still feeds back into it if or else somewhere.
Pretty much. At low level, that's what it is.
It is.
It's not as complex as it sounds, but it does get pretty complex when you try to put it all together.
It is, especially if you want to build big reports with a lot of exceptions or changes. Mm-hmm. It's really challenging, but it was a real, for me, it really dropped a penny of how things work and how if people say they can't quite find it, it's because it's such a big row of ifs and buts and else. And then, it's a whole, I think you see it, those, we have like a graph when it's a tree. So when you split it out into 2 different options, that goes, then each of them goes into 5 different options. That goes into 10 different options. Yep. That's basically what technology is. So sometimes to find a problem, if you don't get put into the right direction, it's a maze, and you can be all the way down one way, and you have to go all the way back to find a different.
I did that fixing a bug yesterday.
That's what a bug is, basically. You end up in the wrong tree, and you end up in the wrong place.
An hour in the wrong file trying to fix a bug. I did everything I could, couldn't get rid of it.
Yeah.
And then went back up to the top and found, I should have gone to this other spot. And in 10 minutes it was fixed.
Yeah. And I've really enjoyed training up our data analyst as well, because her background is actually it's science, so that's a plus. But she hasn't done any data analytics before. She did a basic Excel course, but explaining to her that it's based on if and else. It really helped explain how things work, and for us to get a head around what she's doing and how she's doing it. And then sometimes, and she found it out, she says, I'm just starting over. I'm like, good on you. Because sometimes that's faster than trying to jump from different bits. And
so she's your data analyst with her background science.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And what moved her into that role? Was she brought in as a result of that, or was it just something being upskilled within the business?
Yeah. So we actually she came into the business must have been a year ago now.
Okay.
So she came into the business as our receptionist.
Okay.
She's recently graduated. She's originally from America.
Yep.
And she did a stint in the Netherlands, which obviously is a plus.
Yes, that works well.
That works really well.
Common ground there.
Yeah. So she was a receptionist, and obviously she's quite smart. She has a degree, so she really wanted something more. At the time, I was having conversations around that. For me, in my role, the next step is actually have a data analyst to help me really put some power behind the insights that we can do something with as a business. So there were 2 options. We're always 6 Degrees is really good in promoting internal people. So first looking at who's there. So I had different conversations and had a coffee at the time with Nola as her name, and spoke about what she wants to do, because for me it's really important that what you do, you need to love it. And she at the time was saying, well, I like puzzles, especially mental puzzles. I'm like, you're hired. That's exactly what we're doing.
Digging through data and finding value, basically.
Exactly. Yeah. So things like that really kind of gave away for me that she might be the right type of person who would enjoy this space, because it's really, it's complicated. So you need to love it. So we basically, she's been working with me 3 days a week or 2 days a week initially. Now it's 3 days a week to really train her up and see if it really is something that she enjoys. So far, she's been doing all of them. She's picking up the right things. It's really, really learning, which is a good thing. And she does great initiatives of actually going out there and trying and finding her own solutions, because sometimes I don't even know. So she's great at that, and she's really excited about the right little things, which is fun. So
you need that sort of awareness and that wanting to learn and grow. If you got to take on a role like that, if you're not interested in it, I just want to do the same thing every day. It's not a role for someone to get into.
You have to want to be challenged.
Yes, because it is really is continuous learning, and she gets that, which is really good. And I love it because I used to be just me behind my computer getting really excited by solving one tiny little thing that really doesn't make a difference, but if you know the effort that goes in, so she comes over to my desk sometimes like, oh my god, I did it. I'm like, oh my god, we finally changed the code that it's working. It's now showing a 0. So if you see that, that's amazing. It's so rewarding also for me to see her enjoy that and get satisfactions.
We get a similar thing in the office when we're developing. It's you might be there for 4 hours and then one thing's fixed and it doesn't look like anything's happened.
No, it's just a 0. It was empty before.
It's just something's working.
It's working.
Exactly.
Oh god,
it's doing the right
4
thing.
hours has been like a week or 2 of head banging in some cases, the type of stuff we work in. So very interesting stuff, and it's challenging. It always is, because you're always learning, basically.
And it's so great to have someone there now as well, that together we can celebrate those little wins, because they really are wins. Because especially since I initially was only person in the technology space, there's so many things that it's hard, because it's lonely. If you're not working in a technology business, sometimes it's really lonely, because I feel like I'm talking a different language to people. So it's great.
You need someone to sound things off and be able to talk to and work things out together as well.
Yeah.
Who understands how you're trying to do it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
What's your vision for the team? You're looking to expand the team, grow into different areas. What are you thinking around where you're at right now?
Yeah, I always love looking ahead and being really strategic. So I have big plans.
Yeah.
I really see great opportunity for technology in our business. So for me, data analyst is really the beginning.
Yes.
I think we should move towards having someone who with a technical understanding who's kind of almost like an internal change manager or salespeople who can translate what we're doing, because it's still for me a challenge as well, because I have a really analytical technical mind.
Yes.
So sometimes people want to hear something, I explain it in detail because that's how it works. Actually, sometimes people don't want to hear that.
No.
Which I understand, but for me it's almost if I don't explain it, I'm like, you're just all that work. You need to understand how good it is. So I think it's really good to have someone who can kind of be that in between that really helps work with the business and sometimes say the things that I couldn't say because it's hard for me for me it's almost discrediting. It isn't the work that goes in behind it. Sometimes that simple communication will be really good, but you need someone who understands the technical side. I also I see technology, especially data analytics, as almost like a specialist center, how do they call that? Was it an event recently? And they had a certain name for it where it's a control center. I think that's how they called it. I almost see it becoming that because we have a lot of systems that come up with so much information. We use LinkedIn Talent Insights, for example. Beautiful tool that LinkedIn built where you can see all the different companies, where people are going and leaving and why and where they're moving. And fascinating. I think it's really hard for people in their day-to-day job to use that properly because if you don't go in with a really specific goal, it's really, really overwhelming what to find. So I see there a real opportunity to actually build some kind of control center, however you want to call it, where all the data goes. We'll analyze that and actually shape it in a way that it makes sense for people. And then basically have little bites that you send out to specific people saying this is for you, this is how you use it.
They need.
Just kind of process it for them because data analytics, for example, is a real specialism for a reason. You can't just give people spreadsheets with information and just assume that they'll find their way through it.
People get overwhelmed. People don't think that way to dig in and try and get insights, or they'll get the insight that they want to get out of it and not what it's actually giving them by ignoring things.
Exactly. So that's something I see as a real opportunity for us to really grow into. And also more project and system management, because I think you have product management, for example, in companies like the big software organization. You have a project manager probably looking after a like button on Facebook, for example. Just an extreme because it's massive. But something like that internally in businesses as well, because as I said, there's always so much opportunity to optimize what you have. So having people with certain areas, so even if it's just a group of systems that they look after, or even probably just one system or eventually part of a system, where they're focusing on optimizing it and working together with the other product managers to make sure that people can get the best out of that. That's another area where I see opportunity.
So clearly seeing technology becoming more of a hub within the business, with more internal people that are able to pull data together. I think there's a stat that you put out yesterday on LinkedIn, which was 90% of the world's data was created in the last 2 years.
I saw that,
if you think about that, that's pretty mind-boggling. Yes, so 90% of all the world's data exists today was created in the last 2 years. So
definitely,
and that's going to continue to extrapolate out. And the more data we have in a business, probably the worse it is if you're not really getting insights out of it. So we can collect data, we can invest in storing data, but what are we doing to get the insights from it?
Just having it for having its sake doesn't do anything to help you.
Definitely.
Unless you're getting some insider value out of it. It's just costing you money to collect it and keep it, really.
Exactly, and yet again, that's an awesome opportunity for companies as well, which I think is really underutilized, because even now, what we use is just structured data. It's when people fill something in, that's what we use. But there's so much opportunity to get information. So how the language, for example, so the unstructured data, the language within emails, great opportunity, especially if you look at customer experience, awesome opportunity. Massive piece of work, but hopefully eventually, if you become this specialist hub that really educates the business and helps with them in the back end, because probably hopefully they don't even notice much of what we do, and especially working with marketing, those type of things, there's so much opportunity there as well.
Yeah, there's AI around that can actually help you do that.
Azure has services.
Yes.
Their text language services.
Yeah.
So the translation, sentiment analysis, and a couple other things.
Yeah, I think it's all API driven. You just pump the data in, it'll give you results. So it's actually not as far away as you think it is.
So the OCR, so they can handwritten notes into text automatically for you and things like that.
As a service now. So it's pretty interesting the way we're moving so fast.
And even linking to information that we're now not even thinking of, because people interacting with us, it already means they're probably looking for a job or they're looking to hire someone. But there's other places where those people go to as well. Getting that information, proactively being able to reach out to people and actually help them before they need to take the effort to pick up the phone, for example, to call us for a job. Amazing stuff. And it's really, really, as you say, these days, it's really possible. It's not as far as people think it is.
No, it isn't.
It just needs time. And it's a lot of work to make those kind of things happen. And that's where you need a bigger team with to maintain what you have, because maintenance is one of the things as well that's often overlooked. Technology, I think, is one of your recent posts as well. Technology is ongoing. So you cannot just start and stop.
No.
It's continuous. So you can't just build something and let it go. You need to have people looking after that.
It's like a car. It's like a car. If you build something, put a car out, it might be perfect now, but you've got to maintain it. But then you might upgrade that car completely, or you might have new models, or new features. There's wear and tear. There's all these things that have to get done. And it's never ending. If you're going to start investing in technology, it's becomes a part of the business. Becomes another asset that you need to service, basically.
And that's why you shouldn't do it just for the following everyone else and just for technology's sake. It has to be done with the right reason, following the right outcomes to get the right value.
Definitely.
No, very good.
All right.
I think that was good to wrap up there.
Way over time.
No, thanks for that. That was really good insight from a different angle. One of the key takeaways I got from that, which was we can have businesses these days which have technology people in them, but they're generally to support maybe hardware. And you're coming from an angle of your vision would be maybe people that are in there to support the operations of the business from a data perspective, people that can translate, even BAs within a business that can translate from people to what technology should look like. So it's more about people driving that innovation within the business from a technology outset. So that was good insights in terms of what you're using and what you've invested into so far. So good luck on the journey. I know you're going in the right direction. So it's really good to see what you're doing within a business that's 85 people. That's a mid-tier recruitment company that understands that investing in technology is extremely important and taking some pivotal steps to do that. So thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Enjoyed it.
Thank you.